We understand an upside-down world, but they're writing us off before we get to the starting line. A stalled generation? Who do you think is gonna fix all this? We will, because our future is the future. So we're going to build bridges and hospitals in a day, and feed those left in the cold. We're going to do all this and more, because we have an appointment with destiny.
What's happening, sports fans? Thank you very much for tuning back into San Diego Prep Insider, the official pod. Okay, you know it. Instead of the Marines this time now, we need to thank the California Army National Guard for their generous support. We appreciate all that they are doing to help maintain SD Prep Insider as one of the podcasts. We don't know what the descriptive adjective is, but it is one of the podcasts that does talk about high school sports. Yeah. Bodie DeSilva joins us from Scorebook Live. They are actually someone with an official title that they are the digital content provider and the best in the entire high school sports game. Make sure you download the SB Live Sports app or visit scorebooklive.com for a bunch of stuff, including this week's basketball top 10. Bodie breaks down everything there in a bunch of great detail. Make sure you go reference that. We'll link that on our story and our Twitter and everything. But Bodie, I want to talk with you about some basketball outside of the top 10, as well as a little bit of super hyper early football, but there was some news there. Let's talk basketball first. For me, it's there's two categories now to start looking at. The OLI is still fun because you have teams like San Diego through Otay through Montgomery. Like there's like a 5 to 7 team kind of bubble that you can interchangeably put between 8 and on the outside in. But there's also now starting to emerge as the Division 2, 3, 4, and 5 teams to beat, teams to watch. It's becoming a little bit more clear than it does in terms of other sports. Football and baseball, sometimes you can get an early on picture. Basketball, there's so many, they're playing up and down and over and cross, and it's 5 guys and they need this freshman to like, it's just such a random gambit on some of the lower divisions. So let's start with at least the OLI, and then let's go into some of maybe the other division teams. But for you, who are some teams on that OLI right now that you still think maybe can make some of the biggest gains late in the season?
Yeah, taking a look at the most updated rankings, 2 teams, La Costa Canyon and San Ysidro, I would have come into the season and said these are locks for the open division. But so far, they've combined for what I believe it's 13, 14 losses so far. They are right at La Costa Canyon's the first team outside of the open, San Ysidro second. They've both gone up against tough schedules, but at the end of the day, if you're going to do that, you still got to find a way to get wins. Ultimately, I don't think both of them get left out, but they've got work to do, and they're both playing in difficult leagues. They're not just going to run through and finish their leagues undefeated, I don't think, at least. Mission Bay is another team. They're off to a 13-5 start, but they've got some work to do if they want to get in with the open there. Del Norte is a team I'm looking at. As you go further down the list, I think Mission Hills and La Jolla Country Day, those are teams that can make noise. I think in Division 1, I don't think they'll make that next big jump, but when you're looking, San Diego's in there, Montgomery's in there pretty comfortably right now. So I think this has been one of the more exciting years with a month to go. You look at, and there's so many teams that still have a chance to make open division, and these league games are going to be super competitive.
Let's move down into Division 2. I want to throw a couple teams at you, and I suppose we'll do it this way. I'll throw a team at you. You agree or disagree right now that they are thoroughly in the hunt in Division 2, Mount Carmel?
Yeah, I think they are. They showed really what they're capable of last year and pulled off some surprises. Now they didn't return a whole ton from that team, but I think ultimately if they can finish off league strong, find a way to get a home game to start, then that'll help them to go on, because they play a style with a lot of perimeter shooting that a lot of teams aren't comfortable going up against. And if they start getting hot, that's someone that they don't that other teams aren't comfortable going up against.
Bishops.
Yeah, I like Bishops a lot too. I've seen them play some really competitive games. I caught them against Mater Dei Catholic earlier in this year. Yeah, I think that's another one where they would benefit big time if they can secure a home game. Their strength of schedule isn't the best as compared to some of the teams that they're fighting around with right now, Mount Carmel, Scripps, Rancho Bernardo. But I think they'll have some success in league play. I would look at their league and think that they're probably third best there behind Santa Fe Christian and La Jolla Country Day. So I think they can have some success and find a way to finish out the regular season strong.
Again, like Bodie said, there's about a month to go. So some of this, I'm not going to get into every single team. Just we're bouncing through a couple teams on the way down into divisions. Moving into D3, I'm curious your thoughts on Victory Christian. They showed up in an email about getting top 10 votes, maybe even in the county. And I think that can be somewhat mathematically inflamed or deflamed, depending on how you kind of really want to look at it. But they showed up in the email thread. So I'm curious, real deal, are they in the hunt, Victory Christian, for Division III?
Yeah, I think they're definitely in the mix for Division III. It's funny because knowing what they've had in past seasons, for them to, it's kind of that whole thing of you get good, you lose some guys, and then you're bumped up, like what Palo Verde is going to deal with in football now. But Victory Christian's one where they've been able to reload. They've got a star freshman in Jaden Gray where they've just kind of stepped right into that. He's at 19 points per game. They had a lot of success during the holiday break, picking up wins. San Juan Hills, a public school Christian. They beat Bishops, and then they finished out with a win over Coronado. So, yeah, I think they're definitely real. Ultimately, they're always going to play with a smaller roster, being a smaller school like that. But I think in Division III, they've got a real shot. They're going to deal with Rancho Buena Vista, West Hills, so that'll be tough for them.
Well, between those two, then Rancho Buena Vista and West Hills, who do you think is more in the hunt?
Yeah, I would think Rancho Buena Vista. I caught them early on in the year. They had a couple game losing streak there, but they've really solidified things since then. And speaking of another freshman, they've got one, CJ Aldrich, really impressive scorer and shooter. I think early on, shooting over 40% from three this early in his career. That's been a surprise, but that's a great thing to look at when you're only a freshman doing it at the varsity level.
Down into Division IV, there's a couple of teams that also pop into at least my radar, but I'm curious about whether or not you think they are in the hunt. And that first one going to be LCAP for me. Seems like they started the year off hot. Do you still think they're in the hunt?
Yeah, I think they are. I think early on things were a little inflated, playing a weaker schedule, but they're still 13-4, and there's something to be said for that. So as they go on, I think they have the experience. They've played teams at a higher level at a point. And once you're within that division, once that bracket comes out, you're going to play a lot of teams that are very similar, a lot of teams that have a similar strength of schedule at that point. So yeah, I think right now they're sitting at number 3. If they can get one of those top 2 seeds guaranteed home court throughout, that would be beneficial to them. But even if not, I mean, the 2 teams that are currently ahead of them, Claremont and Vincent Memorial, I don't think they go into either of those games. And if it's a potential semi, quarterfinal, whatever it is, and think they don't have a shot, I think they would have a very good chance against those teams.
I'm curious, you talked about with Victory Christian, them being the victims of going up too high from seniors, losing, needing to go back down. Kearney is a school that we saw them rise with Robbie Robinson and Dakota Brown up to being a Division I, even open division team, and they have taken the mathematical steps backwards now to being a Division IV team. And it feels like now they're starting on that ebb and flow back upward. They've had some pretty decent athletes. They've had some pretty good results. Do you find them in the hunt?
Yeah, I do. I think they're going to have a very competitive chance here in league. I know they've started out 0-1 so far, and they're dealing with the Claremont team who currently sits atop that division rankings right now. But it was only a 4-point loss, at home. That's something that could easily change their next time around. But they got to take care of business. They're going to have High Tech Highs, a team that's off to an 11-4 start. They'll deal with Canyon Hills. They're going to have Madison in a non-league game, and we know Madison's a very competitive team. So they're going to have their chances as they go, but they got to make sure they keep stacking wins together, because you fall below 500, then you're at risk.
Let's talk Division V. And again, a month plus to go. So sorry if we're not getting to every single one of these, but Bodie has a ton of stuff to go cover on his own. Make sure you download the SB Live Sports app or visit scorebooklive.com to follow along with all the great work Bodie and the team here in San Diego are doing. Division V is a bigger division than all the rest, so there are more teams, Bodie. So I'll ask this 2 ways. I'll ask one of my teams, and then I'll just ask you to close it out with a team from the field that you like. But looking up and down, they came into the year with the highest mathematical ranking, so you would hope that they are the team of destiny, if you will, but that's El Cajon Valley. I'm curious where you find them at this point in the hunt or not.
Yeah, to me, they're not. They're struggling down there at 5-9. Not that I would go off on a limb here, but the team that's sitting at the top for me, Valley Center, they've got to be the team I'm looking at so far. And it shouldn't be a surprise. Valley Center is going to be a bigger school than most of the teams you're going to find in Division V at this point. But to me, they look like a clear favorite.